This program is part of the Scene Project's podcast network. The Scene Project features interviews with independent musicians, comedians, and artists from across the Midwest. Become part of our community and support local art wherever you are. Welcome into another exciting episode of The Scene. I'm your host, Bubba Startz, and with me today is recording artist Randy C. Moore. Randy, welcome to the show.
Howdy, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Just getting my first sip of coffee today as well. So ready to have a great convo, and obviously, a long, illustrious career for you to cover, but a lot of really big things happening for you currently. So before we get into all that, we'd love to just give you the floor and get a little bit of your backstory.
Well, let's see if anybody is interested. I started out in my little hometown of Humble, Texas, just playing music as a kid, not really caring that much about it because I'm a painter. I'm a guy who paints pictures and stuff. So I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to go to art college and all that kind of stuff. But I got derailed by a guitar and a bunch of girls that liked a guy who plays guitar. So that sort of led me into starting to play more music. I was writing songs early on, I don't know, in my teens, and I started writing these country songs, and I guess they must have been, pretty good because my folks were like, we need to get you to play these for some other people. And my dad had a friend who was a a disc jockey there in Houston. His name was Archie Yancey, and they played some stuff for Arch, and he was like, I want to help him out. I think he's got something going on here. So Arch kind of started getting me set up to go into recording studios and things like that. And he also invited me to be on his show that he had every Thursday night at Gilly's Nightclub in Pasadena, Texas. And so here I am, like 15, 16 years old, and I'm headed out to Gilly's every Thursday night with my folks to sing a few songs on the stage of Gilly. So that was a really good experience for me, but I still wasn't completely convinced that I wanted to be a musician. So I stayed with my art, stayed with my music a little bit here and there. And then I ended up starting to work for an amusement park in the Houston area called Astro World. And that was like a regular show that I did like 4 times a day. It was hard work, but all of a sudden I'm in front of a really big audience now, and I'm starting to feel like, okay, this is really fun, and they're paying me for this. So then I headed off to Nashville when I graduated, and I worked at their amusement park, and that led me to be on my first performance of the Grand Ole Opry with Roy Acuff back in 1978. So that's how I got started making records in Nashville here and there, and starting out in the Houston area. That's sort of a thumbnail sketch that gets people up to speed of where I got going.
Well, and have been doing it ever since. Now I see some paintings in the back. Are those some of yours?
Well, I took my wife's records that she had. She had a bunch of singles, and she's like, well, I don't have a record player anymore. She says, I don't know what to do with these. I said, well, you want me to make them into something for you? She goes, sure. So I just did some, I don't know. That's just like some crude design work there with just, paint smattering and all kinds of stuff. It's a little bit of abstract over basically, those are actual, record singles. Here, let me grab a piece of artwork.
I would love that. I appreciate that your need for expression from an early age, whether it was through visual art or then eventually songwriting and performing, that it's always been a need deep inside of you. And I think that's something that gets overlooked a lot with people who are outside of artist worlds, right? Like that are not musicians themselves. They don't realize the deep internal desire that it takes to create, especially when there is no money involved and you're not doing it necessarily for a living. You can't help but express yourself in that way. And I love that you've kind of had that from a very early age.
Well, And I'll go one step further. I think you said people who are outside of sort of the artistic realm of thinking, or however it is that makes whatever makes you tick. I think a lot of times people who are outside of the realm of artistic creativity, whether it's music or whether it's visual art or anything, I think a lot of people think of that as they think of it as a developed skill and a craft. And really, when you start doing it from the inside, yeah, you're developing your skills and you're developing your craft. But there's a whole nother kind of level to that of like, I just really love this more than anything. I rendered this thing here. This is from a song I actually wrote called Elvis and Jesus. And it's sort of like a Salvador Dali sort of rendition of Elvis and Jesus that I rendered in watercolor. So, but that's that's kind of the tip of different things that I've done over the years. That's kind of where I was at when I was a kid, and I think it kind of keeps me being a kid, still doing that kind of stuff too. Actually, playing guitar and all this kind of stuff keeps you being a kid in a way, because you started out doing that as a younger guy, and a lot of things, when you're younger, you kind of have to give them up at a certain point. But I never gave up those two things, so I still got a lot of kid in me, I guess.
Well, and you're always learning, right? That's kind of the childlike quality that you talk about. And even the guitar masters, I guess you would say, they're always striving to learn more, or you hear something that someone else plays and it's really something that you never perfect, right? Like there's no, that's just not, I don't know that it's attainable. You can be the most proficient guitar player in the world, but somebody's going to play that instrument differently. And that may inspire you to change a little bit of what you do. So it's ever evolving, I guess, is maybe a better term. And so, which always leaves something more to learn. I mean, 40 years ago, there wasn't people playing necessarily like some of these people that I've seen, viral clips where they're, kind of hammering on the strings and they're creating the drum parts on the guitar with it. And I'm watching them play and the hammer-ons that they're doing. And it's like, that's like, I don't even feel like I play a guitar compared to that, but it's all just different forms of expression and using this lovely instrument to be able to do it. A guitar player myself, a songwriter as well. I say there's a special relationship between the 6 strings of a guitar and a human voice. Talk about your songwriting a little bit and kind of the evolution of that, being someone who not necessarily, like you didn't set out like, I'm going to be a Nashville songwriter. It more or less just happened. You started writing songs and then the songs carried you and your life kind of carried you in that direction.
Yeah. I think the songwriting thing was sort of a natural thing coming out of playing an instrument and all that kind of stuff, since I did have this whole creative thing going on in me. I will say, I don't think I grew up with some, burning desire to express myself or anything like that, and a lot of great artists actually did grow up that way. Me, I had a fairly normal childhood and fairly normal life. Actually, I've lived a very charmed life compared to most people who are successful in the music industry and do this kind of thing all the time. I told my wife the other day, I said, it's funny. I said, I'm satisfied. I'm really happy. I love what I do. I said, it's kind of hard to make that interesting, but I guess I'll talk about it. But when I started out songwriting, it became something where you're playing all these different songs that you're learning, that you're learning how to play guitar through other types of music and stuff like that. And then at one point in time, those progressions and those things start to kind of like rearrange themselves a little bit, because you start hearing these melodies in your head. So you start messing around with that kind of things, which is kind of what I did. But mostly it was the lyrical, and it's still today. It's still the lyrical content and the approach to lyrics that is really, really, really it's almost like a magic trick, because there's so many ways to go. And the more that you hear, or the more that you've heard, the more options you feel like you have. So in a strange sort of way, my songwriting sort of, I don't know, it kind of built itself. I didn't go to any, songwriting schools or clinics or stuff like that. Although I wish I had, because it might have been a shortcut to where I was eventually going to get. But that wasn't the case for me. I'm a slow learner, and usually I learn by trial and error. So when I started writing those songs, and Arch and Yancey had heard what I was writing, was like, he needs to stay with this, and encourage my folks to keep me after that particular muse. I would write songs, heck, I was headed to Nashville with my mom to go have a meeting, and we were on an airplane. It was one of those things where your brain's not working. Your brain might be working on one thing, but your other part of your brain says, "Oh, hey, guess what? I don't have anything to do over here. Let's write a song. Let's make something up." So a lot of times that's my songwriting process. Is I have to be in a particular space where either my brain is occupied driving a car, or a lawnmower, or some sort of task that's almost automatic. And then the other part of my brain, the creative guy, says, "Oh, okay, well, we don't have to think about what we're doing now. So let's have some playtime over here, and let's see what's happening." I mostly would write songs early on that were kind of like personal expressions, but I didn't really understand that that was really the way to go. So when you live in Nashville for many years, like I did, you immerse yourself in the craft of songwriting, which I did. And I had a publishing deal and all those different things. So, I'm going into a place, every day, and I'm sitting down in a room and I'm writing songs with people, and, doing the recording process and all these kind of things. They all sort of lead from one thing to another, which was my experience in learning how to get to where I'm at today, which I'm self-sufficient. I'm proficient. I don't know it all. I never will. And I keep looking for that next thing that is going to turn into a song. The one thing that I did learn through the whole process of listening to all these other folks and doing all the crafting, everything, I got outside of myself quite a lot in order to, fit into this or fit into that, to make this song work, or make this song work, or that song work. But eventually it all brought me back to, what am I feeling? What story do I want to tell? And that's when things really landed for me, quite frankly, where they are and where they'll stay right now, which is everything that I do. I try to make sure that it's an honest, personal, and even first person expression of what I'm either observing, feeling, or doing, So most of the songs that anybody hears from me, I don't know, in the last 10 years or so, are going to be songs that were like, okay, they came straight out of me. I lived this. I may have embellished a few things here and there, but 90% of it is the honest truth.
And that's the only way that I've really ever been a songwriter. It's been a need for me. Like, I got to get this emotion, this feeling out of me. And the way that I do that is through song. That's the way it's always kind of happened for me in that. So I don't know any other way, but I'm friends with a lot of people now who live in Nashville and are in those writers' rooms and are, trying to write the next hit. And it's not that you can't infuse your, personal experiences into those, situations, but I feel like it's different. I feel like it's a different thing when you're trying to like write a song that maybe for someone else's voice, even, I know there's songwriters out there that aren't necessarily writing for themselves to perform it, and doing like, you said for the last 10 years, what I've done for my entire life, which is very personal songwriting. Like, the songs are for me more than anything, and they're just my way of expressing myself. If other people enjoy them and it rings a bell, in their soul as well, because they've been through something similar, I think that's what attracts us to the larger artists. It comes to mind a guy like Jelly Roll, who kind of spoke to the broken people. And the reason that it rings true for them is because they feel that. And because they know his backstory and know that it is true for him, that I think it just hits a little bit differently. It hits a little bit harder. And I think that that's been fairly, common throughout time when you have some of these big artists and big songs. It's because they ring true and we're from maybe a personal experience.
Well, if they weren't, and a great artist, a great recording artist will he can make you believe that he lived that song. That's why Garth Brooks is so good with what he does. I got a friend who wrote some songs over there at his house with his daughter. And he said, we were there writing, and he said, we took a break and we were in the kitchen, and he said, I could hear somebody singing upstairs, and the person kept singing the same 2 or 3 lines over and over and over again. And I looked at I looked at Garth's daughter. He said, I looked at Garth's daughter and I said, what's going on? She goes, oh, well, that's Dad. He goes, well, what's he doing? He says, well, he's thinking about recording this song. And whenever he does that, he'll take a whole day or something, and he'll just do every phrase, and he'll just go over it and over it until it feels like it's natural and feels like it's coming from him. And that's why the songs that he does, when people hear them, they go, man, you must have lived that, or that. How did you make that up? And it's like, well, no, no, I didn't make it up. But I'm the person who lived it. I'm showing you that this is something that I'm delivering it on the basis of this feels like something personal to me, and I need to deliver it the right way. So. And everything that you said about what you were talking about in your songwriting process, I can just go ahead and mirror all that stuff that you said. So you kind of like answered a lot of what I've already been told and what I've learned, which is if it's a personal expression, and if it feels right to you, honestly, then it's probably going to work right outside your door. It's probably going to hit the right places with other people. And that's really important. And then you said something about when you're trying to write a song, to fit another voice or fit another artist or something. That's a that's like a rut, or almost like that's almost like an anti-songwriting phrase when you say trying to write a song, because once you start trying, then all of a sudden it seems like that the fluid motion and the actual forward motion of things coming out of you, now it's almost like you're forcing things out because you feel like, oh, well, this will fit or that'll fit and everything. And like I said, trial and error is a great teacher, but ultimately you got to stick with what's right there. So that's a pretty, these are all broad observations that I'm making, and you and I are kind of almost like shaking hands and agreeing that we we have no idea what's happening next, but we're going to see if we can come up with something that fits it, and helps us fit into that next thing. So that's great. That's a wonderful thing that you said, though. That's cool.
Thank you. Well, and I've said a lot that I'm merely a conduit for the song. Right. That this moment has struck me for some reason. And then the song kind of starts flowing, and I'm trying my best to stay out of its way, really, which I'm sure with some of the best songs in the world, that's been, exactly what it is. I had a good friend of mine was a producer, worked with Tom Petty on his first couple of records with Shelter Records out in Los Angeles. And he talked about serving the song. And I think that, for the last 15, 20 years of my life now, that's really carried me in my songwriting. Now, I don't write as much as I used to in my 20s. I don't necessarily haven't done this professionally for a while. And now that I've kind of slid myself into this media role, this takes up a lot more of my time. But I think I approach songwriting in the same way that I did when I was 16 years old, is that just let things flow, and you can always change it, and you're going to be changed by it. And it's been gratifying. Not that I've written any hits or anything that, people are clamoring to hear more of. There's so much more to a hit song than just the writing and performing of it, or even the recording process. There's a lot that goes into the backside of that with, the marketing and all the business end to make a song achieve that, super stardom that, we've seen out there in the world.
Well, the record business has sort of brought us from great songs that reach out and touch people. They brought us all the way from there to artists or people who do these things are now products and brands. And so they build more. They seem to want to build more on that than just say, let's just do great songs, And
yeah, it's more like, what are you not going to turn off than what are you going to seek out and turn on?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a different sort of thing that's going on. And it's not just the music business or even the entertainment business. It's in everything. Everything that is monetized is a product. Everything that is a product is a brand. Everything that is a brand is something that is sort of like created so you can go, oh, well, when the brand because it has some unique, look or some unique sound or some unique taste or some unique color, or some combination of all of that stuff. So it's changed, and it hasn't changed songwriting that much, I don't think. Now, writing songs in Nashville and other places, for instance, Nashville songwriters, the younger Nashville songwriters especially, and even the older ones too, if you don't adapt to a system, then you just need to probably just do something else. So anybody who's still writing songs in Nashville and getting songs recorded, they've learned to adapt. They've learned to go, okay, or they've learned where their niche is, and that particular niche still has a need and still has a market. But what I'm alluding to now is the modern technique of writing songs, which I don't even know if I'd even be doing it these days in Nashville with any competence or anything else, because a lot of times it's more than one writer. It's a combination of maybe 3 or 4 people. Some of them might be signed a publishing deal. Some of them might not. They're all friends. It's almost like goes back to sort of the hippie days of everybody just kind of hanging out and contributing to a piece of work. They use drum loops. They do all this kind of stuff. There's a whole different idea about what songs are, what is a song supposed to do and what is it supposed to be. So when I listen to the radio now and people say to me, they go, well, that country music, it just don't sound country to me anymore. I said, well, you have to understand, when you were listening to country music or when you started liking country music, yeah, it sounded different than what it sounds like now. But you have to understand the people who are making this music and people who are making this music up, they didn't grow up with the same thing that you grew up with. You just, take, for instance, if somebody is in their 30s and they're a successful songwriter, then take their calendar and move it back 15 or 20 years. And whatever they were listening to in high school or junior high is going to basically get into their creative process. So in other words, Nashville records, they may sound more like something from, the cadences and everything may sound something more like off of an Eminem record, or it may sound like a Pearl Jam record, or any number of influences that came from that timeline, before then. I was listening to country music when it was a big singer songwriter folk influence thing. I listened to a lot of Johnny Cash, a lot of John Denver, Jim Croce, Charlie Rich, people like that. I wasn't influenced by Hank Williams. I love Hank Williams' music, and his songs are still, all of his lyric and everything are still so relevant today, because Hank Williams was basically just like a blues. He was like the first rock and roll star, if you think about it. But those influences that I named, that's kind of what, sort of keeps guiding me, from a little distance all over my shoulder. It's like, oh yeah, okay, this is why I like the way this sounds. This is why I like the way this flows. Nothing wrong with that, as far as like, if it works, go with it, adapt if you can and if you want to, but don't do it for the sake of, okay, well, I can get a paycheck out of this, next week. It's like, it doesn't really work that way. Some people think it should, but you can't really buy creativity. It's either there or it's not there. But you can sell it.
So Randy, where's your career now? I know that you're fairly stable in what you do, and maybe not the most exciting of careers still, but you're still out. I know you're touring and you're playing with some really big names and still getting to do what you love to do. Is it different now than it ever was, or is it pretty much just the same?
Parts of it are the same, parts of it are different. The parts that are the same is I hate traveling. I always have. I picked the wrong thing to do for a living, but I'm here and then I'm there and then I'm back here and then I'm over there and then I'm back here. So in that sense, that's kind of always been a constant. I've just never liked crawling into a vehicle or an airplane or whatever it was that I had to get the gear and get the band to the gig and do it and then undo it. So that's never really been something I look forward to. I still don't, but it's okay. I just say, well, it comes with the territory. What's changed for me is, and a game changer for me was moving back to Texas, close to where I grew up. I live in a place called Lufkin, Texas now, which is about an hour and a half away from where I grew up down north of Houston. And so first of all, it feels like I'm home. And that's a good thing for me because I'm a homebody anyway. So second of all, that kind of helps me with being able to create things because now I don't have any other voices or any other things saying, kind of almost like disturbing what would be considered my comfort zone. So I've been a lot more creative, song-wise, music-wise, and even career-wise, to tell you the truth, since I moved back here than I ever was in Nashville, because it was always a side of living in Nashville that was a bit of a fight, a bit of a struggle. And I hate fighting. I hate struggles. I don't like challenges. I'm not ambitious. I don't care about any of that kind of stuff. I really want to enjoy life and I want to be happy. And in order to do that for me, I have to have this space that just works. It's a zone. And when I get out of that zone, I do what I have to do, but I don't necessarily enjoy it. So right now, I'm in the best place that I've ever been in my whole life when it comes to writing songs and when it comes to doing shows, because I play about a dozen different listening rooms around the area, around the state of Texas. I'll venture out every now and then. The last time I went somewhere, I was in New Jersey at Asbury Park doing a benefit show at the Stone Pony. And the artists on that show were Little Steven Van Zandt and Dixie Dregs and Harry Chapin's family. And I got to participate in what was called a Hungerthon. This all came out of me recording a cover of the Harry Chapin song, Cats in the Cradle. So in that sense, once again, traveling was like, rent a car, plane reservations, hotels, or directions, this, that, okay, eat here, go there, get your luggage, unpack, pack, It's just like, I'm like going, yeah, now I know what it is that I don't like about this stuff. But then walk on stage, deliver a piece of material, do something that makes people happy. All of a sudden it's like, okay, well, this is the part that I did all this for. So that's my life right now, and probably what it's going to be for the next, I don't know, foreseeable future, which is great.
Yeah, I can't help but but relate to that. I live in rural South Dakota. This is where, in a town where my wife grew up, where her parents grew up. I have no desire to move to Nashville. I have no desire to move to New York or Los Angeles. I've lived in some of these places before. My family's originally from the Chicago area. I have no desire to live in some of these cities and to put myself in competition with more artists. I just want to create. I want to be able to do what I do. And I'm very blessed to have internet, stable internet here in the sticks, and to be able to communicate and to build a platform for new artist discovery, whether they've been in the game for, decades, such as you, or they're just starting out. We've interviewed over 500 artists on our platform in less than 2 years. I'm reaching out to more and more award shows to do red carpet experiences at these so I can connect with artists. For me, yes, I'm passionate about my own career, but I'm mostly passionate about just independent creative people in general, no matter the medium that they work in. I just like being surrounded by what I find very interesting people. And I'm very grateful to be where I'm at, to do what I do. We're also talking on the eve of me leaving on a 2-week, 5,000-mile tour. So I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I let someone plan this, i.e. me. But it's about building this platform to support the spaces in between. So really not focusing on the major markets, although I am stopping in Nashville on the tour. It's kind of the last stop just because I happen to be going through there. It wasn't a focal point. I was very fortunate to work at the Grand Ole Opry House with the Josie Music Awards last November. Very blessed to have taken part in that, but it's not the same mecca to me that it is to a lot of other people in the country music. I didn't grow up a country guy, right? So while I realized it's hallowed ground, it wasn't the end all be all to me to say, oh, I can't wait to, stand in that circle. It just doesn't have the same feeling to me that maybe it does for, thousands of artists that were, hundreds that were in the building that night, and for many others. For me, I was more excited to stand outside in the cold that November evening and to interview 150 new artists that I've never met before. So I'm very blessed, and I feel the same way, that I'm only at my best when I'm in the environment that makes me happy. And for me, being surrounded by corn and soybean fields, I didn't know was ever going to make me as happy as it does, but the space means a lot to me. And, the cost of living doesn't hurt either, Randy.
Yeah, I completely get it.
Well, appreciate you taking some time for me today. Go ahead and plug anything, website, where people can find you, listen to the music. And then I hope you can hang out for a few minutes after the show with me, because I'll be coming down through Texas next week. So would love a chance to connect with you there too. But go ahead and share all your socials and website, if you will.
Well, let's just get started by saying my single right now is called Forget Me Not, and it's on all the streaming services and all the downloadable things out there, iTunes and the whole mishmash. If anybody wants to see the video, it's on YouTube, but it's also on my website. And I do have a website that has every accessible point that anybody would care to do, if from reading the bio to seeing my videos to seeing some live performances to seeing where they can download songs and things like that off my albums. The website is called randycmoore.com, RANDY initial CMOORE.com. And I have a couple of Facebook pages that are dedicated to what I do. One is called Randy C. Moore Music, and that one kind of tells people where they can find me doing what you and I are doing today, or where they can find where my records are playing, or who's playing the records, or what the charts look like, and all that kind of stuff. And then the other one that I have is called Friends of Randy C. Moore, and that really deals more with live performances. Where am I going to be? Where am I headed? Check this out, check that out. So, but all of that stuff can be found on the website as well, the schedule and everything like that. I've got a Instagram and I've got an X and all that kind of stuff, but I hardly ever use any of that stuff or anything. It's just the 2 Facebook pages and the website are the main places to go. RandyCMoore.com or Randy C. Moore Music on Facebook, or Randy C. Moore, Friends of Randy C. Moore on Facebook. So there you go. There's the whole 9 yards in one particular package.
Fantastic. Well, Randy, I appreciate you taking some time for me this morning, and thank you for being part of the scene.
Right on, man. Well, good luck, and listen, be safe in your travels. It's you're probably picking a good time to go to places right now because it seems like the spring or the early spring, everybody's all excited. It's almost like after the first of the year, everybody takes all of their frustrations and throws them away.
Randy, I was in Texas last May and last August, and it was hot. So I learned my lesson from last year. I'm going to get to Texas February or March, and we're doing the whole Gulf Coast, and just very blessed to do what we do. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll chat soon.
Okay, bud.